All right, Aaron, in this video, we're going to identify, number one, the professional pitcher that we're going to compare you to, and I'll explain why I'm making that comparison. After we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about the things that you've improved upon since the beginning of March. And so I want to start here by pulling up Tom Glavine on the right-hand side, left-handed pitcher who's now retired, but he used to pitch for the Braves and the Mets, and he was a great starting pitcher. And there's two reasons why I'm going to compare you to Tom Glavine. The first one has everything to do with his arm slot. Okay, if you take a look here at release point for Tom Glavine, and if you look at his arm angle here when he lets go of the ball, you're going to notice that it's very similar to the arm angle that you create when you release the ball. Yours is a little bit lower, but very similar. And you can see here where the ball is released in relationship to the head is pretty similar as well. So one of the things that we do as pitching coaches is we never want to change a person's arm slot because that's natural. Instead, any mechanical adjustments that we want to make are going to be adjustments with the glove, adjustments with the feet, with the legs, with the hips, but the arm slot stays, and so that's the first reason why we use Tom Glavine. The second reason why we use Tom Glavine is because you and him are both going to be similar pitchers. Tom Glavine found his success based on control and command of his fastball and the ability to use off-speed pitches. And he had a lot of success that way. And if you're going to be successful at the next level, varsity high school, you're going to have to do the same thing. Command your fastball, use your changeup and your off-speed to get guys to roll over their hands and get a lot of ground ball outs. So with that in mind, I want to begin this lesson by talking about some places that you've improved in. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull up a side view of you, and this is back in March 19th, 2013. And we're going to pull up the same side view for Tom Glavine on the right-hand side. And what we're going to pay attention to first of all is Tom Glavine. I'm going to draw a green line behind his back foot, back knee, and back hip. And we're going to talk really quickly about momentum, which is something we've talked about at length over the past 3 months with you. You're going to see here, when Tom Glavine gets to his knee lift, you'll notice that his back knee will start to separate from this line, and so will his back hip. So again, if we notice right here, if I draw that green line up his back foot, back knee, back hip, right here, you're going to see as he picks up his knee, he's going to be leaning in towards his target right there, and you can see that hip separate from that green line. And notice how his hands have yet to separate. If we go back into the same position right here, and we draw a green line at his eyes, you're going to notice that when he lifts his knee and begins his momentum, his eyes are going to stay in the relatively same position. They're going to stay level. So if we go ahead and get him into his knee lift here, you can see those eyes stay level with that line, and they stay pretty level all the way into his knee break. There's not a lot of head movement. The only head movement we have is going forward, away from this green line. And so you see here when he's breaking his hands, the back hip separates from this green line. He's thrusting with his hip, and he's creating energy going forward. And this is how we use our body to deliver the ball efficiently. Now, if we draw that same green line behind your back foot, back knee, and back hip, back in March, you're going to notice a big difference. You're going to notice that you weren't getting as much momentum. And so if we get you into your knee lift here, all right, pick the knee up. Notice how your head right away goes backwards towards the green line. And at the top of your knee lift, you have not gotten any separation with your back hip. In contrast, at the top of Tom Glavine's knee lift, look at the difference. Look where his head's at in comparison to this back line. And look where your head's at. Look at the back hip. And look at how he's leading with his front butt. And then as we track forward into Tom Glavine's separation, where he separates his hands, we do the same thing with you. Notice how you just kind of scrunch down towards the ground. You haven't gained any distance towards home plate. Instead, the only thing that you've done is your eyes have gotten lower. They haven't gotten any further towards home plate. And your weight's gone back. And so when your weight goes back, we obviously can't create the type of momentum that a pitcher in the big leagues is creating to be efficient and free and easy. as you can see right there. And so when we first started, we had a bit of a momentum problem. And that's a problem for a couple of reasons. Number one, you can see here when you're about to get into your foot strike position, look where your head's at in relationship to your belly button. Your belly button's way out here, your head's way back here. Well, that's just not a balanced position to pitch from. And you're going to put a lot of stress and tension on your arm. In contrast, when Tom Glavine's in that same position, notice how his head's right over his belly button in a balanced position. So he's not going to put the kind of stress on his arm that you were putting. Now, when we track him forward, right before release, this is something I want you to notice, okay? This is right before release, and you notice how the arm kind of is all the way back behind the elbow. Look where the elbow is at in relationship to the head. This is a strong position to throw from because it doesn't put a lot of stress or strain on the elbow or shoulder. Now, if we get you to that same position right here, notice where your head's at and where your elbow is at. You're way, way behind your head, and so you're going to put a lot of tension and a lot of pressure on your throwing arm because you're not using your body and your momentum to get to your foot strike and release position. And so those were some things that we were trying to improve with you. Now, with that in mind, what I wanted to go ahead and do is pull up your most recent video. And this was done on June 2nd. And as I pull this up, we're going to compare it to Tom Glavine. And again, just like the last time, we're going to go ahead and draw that green line up the back foot, back knee, back hip. And we'll do the same thing for you. And we're going to draw that green line at the eyes where they start. And we'll begin with Tom Glavine. Get him into the top of his knee lift. You can see the hip separate from that back line. You can see him leading with his butt, and his eyes stay fixed and firm. They don't drop down. If anything, you can see they go a little bit forward, tracking towards home plate. Now as we track you forward here into your knee lift, we're in the top of your knee lift right there. We don't get a lot of separation from this back line, but also at the same time, we're not dropping down as much. Your eye level is not as low as it used to be. And as we track you forward right there into your separation of the hands, we can see now that you get a little bit more separation with your back hip. And you're doing a good job leading with your butt, and your head's in a great position. Notice how your eyes are right over your belly button in a good, powerful position. So you look a lot more like Tom Glavine when you separate the hands than you did before, which is fantastic. Notice that your eyes haven't dropped as much. If we pull up your old video back in March, right here, and we do that same thing, you're going to notice a dramatic difference in how you're shifting your weight. We'll get you into your handbrake. And when you broke your hands back then, look, actually, let's go back and just draw that green line with your eyes so you can see how much your eyes drop down. Now we'll get you into your handbrake. And look at how much lower your eyes were then. They were going down and back instead of working towards home plate. And you're not where you need to be, but this is a big difference. And you're not exactly where you need to be with your back hip, but it's a lot more improved. You can see the angle with your back foot is more of what we want here, okay, than what you had back here where you were just, your knee was kind of going out and away from home plate. So that's a good start, and that's a big improvement that you've made. And as a result of that, you're going to see a big difference right before your release point. So this is the new video, and we're going to track that right before release, where your arm right there. And we'll do the same thing with this old video on the right-hand side. And look at all of a sudden now how your elbow is now closer to your head, which is exactly what we want. This is going to put less strain on the elbow and the shoulder, whereas before, when you went to release, notice where the elbow is at in relationship to the head. And that's all because of the better job that you've done with your momentum. And so if we take a second here to play these two clips side by side, you're going to see that you do a much better job on the left side in June, creating momentum towards home plate. And so I'm really excited about the progress you've made, and I'm confident because of the way that you come in focused and ready to practice and get better with your game that you're just going to continue to get better every day.